Welcome to the Explainer.
So it's April 2026, and wow, Manchester United finds itself staring down the barrel of what is arguably the most consequential, structurally defining decision of its modern era. We are looking directly into a massive executive boardroom crisis at Old Trafford right now. Today, we're going to unpack the empirical data, the internal politics, and the tactical blueprints that are driving this incredibly high-stakes managerial search. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. £12 million. Yeah, let that number sink in for a second. That massive reported severance package was triggered by the incredibly turbulent, highly publicized dismissal of head coach Ruben Amorim just a few months ago in January. Now, in an era totally governed by strict profit and sustainability rules, a payout like that isn't just a heavy financial hit, it is an absolute structural catastrophe. It's exactly the kind of costly, paralyzing mistake the INOS ownership consortium is desperately trying to avoid repeating.
So, how do they actually fix this mess? Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the Ineos Sporting Blueprint, the Ruben Amorim collapse, chasing the elite unicorn, evaluating the alternatives, the Michael Carrick phenomenon, and finally, the final boardroom verdict.
Starting with Section 1, the Ineos Sporting Blueprint, constructing the new Old Trafford hierarchy. To properly grade the candidates, we really need to understand the new, heavily decentralized executive structure they'd be stepping into. You know those old-school days of the omnipotent British manager? The siloed, dictatorial boss who controlled every single facet of the club. Yeah, those days are completely over at Old Trafford. Sir Dave Brailsford initially led this intense internal high-performance audit they called Mission 21, but he's actually since pivoted his daily focus over to cycling's Mission 8. So this shift firmly centralized football power within a brand new executive axis. CEO Omar Barada, Sporting Director Dan Ashworth, and Technical Director Jason Wilcox. What this means is that whoever takes the hot seat now has to perfectly fit the modern specialized head coach archetype. They need to focus purely on the grass, the match day, and the players, and leave the big picture club strategy to the executives.
So the crucial point is this specific grading rubric. Ineos has laid down 4 strict, non-negotiable rules for the incoming manager. First up, tactical adaptability. You have to be pragmatic and work with the squad you actually have. Second, institutional collaboration. Basically, you must be willing to defer the macro planning to Wilcox and Ashworth. Third, media diplomacy. Managing that relentless English press without fracturing the club's environment. And fourth, youth integration. Actively bringing academy players into the first team. Keep these 4 rules in the back of your mind because they are the exact lens through which every single candidate is being judged.
Now, you might be wondering, why are these 4 criteria so unyielding? Well, that brings us to Section 2, the Ruben Amorim collapse, the cost of systemic dogmatism. His incredibly brief, highly toxic tenure was the primary catalyst that hardened these new rules.
Amorim arrived with this huge mandate to modernize the team, but his fatal flaw wasn't just his tactics, it was his systemic dogmatism. He stubbornly forced a highly specific tactical framework onto a squad whose physiological and technical realities simply couldn't handle it, which alienated the players and sent out mixed messages. But the real collapse was intensely political. After a pretty disappointing 1-1 draw against Leeds United, Amorim actually used his press conference to publicly attack former players, and then he directly demanded that technical director Jason Wilcox fulfill his role. I mean, wow. This kind of public insubordination violently breached the INOS demand for boardroom synergy, and he was dismissed less than 24 hours later.
With Amorim officially out, the boardroom's eyes turned toward the absolute zenith of European management. Section 3, chasing the elite unicorn, the pursuit of Luis Enrique. Throughout the spring, executives Barada and Wilcox viewed 55-year-old Spaniard Luis Enrique as the ultimate elite global superstar to return them to glory.
Enrique is pretty much the definition of global superstar management. We're talking about a Champions League and treble winner whose whole philosophy is built around juego de position. It's a system that guarantees elite standards by demanding absolute possession dominance and suffocating high block pressing. But here's the catch. Enrique is fiercely uncompromising. He fundamentally lacks a pragmatic plan B. If his intricate, pre-choreographed rotations don't work out, his solution is just to demand better execution. In the chaotic, highly transitional English Premier League, bringing in a system that rigid presents a massive translation risk.
Ultimately, though, this unicorn chase is practically dead on arrival due to pure logistics. Paris Saint-Germain president Nasser Al-Khelaifi aggressively moved to secure Enrique's loyalty for his whole post-Mbappé project. And how did he do it? By acquiring the Spanish wonderkid Dro Fernandez, a signing that was specifically tailored to Enrique's exact desires.
This massive show of institutional commitment effectively anchors Enrique de Paris on a new contract through 2027, making him fully prepared to just reject any of Manchester United's advances.
So, with Enrique anchored in Paris and peers like Guardiola totally inaccessible, INOs is forced to interrogate the rest of the field. Section 4. Evaluating the alternatives. Auditing the secondary shortlist. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how systematically these alternatives disqualify themselves when you hold them up against that strict Ineos grading rubric we talked about. Julian Nagelsmann, tactically brilliant, sure, but his availability is very low because he's locked into the World Cup with Germany. Being totally absent during a crucial summer rebuild is just an untenable compromise. Then you have Roberto De Zerbi, who is a free agent, but his time at Marseille highlighted severe emotional volatility and a pretty dogmatic refusal to adapt his defensive structures. Gareth Southgate has the diplomatic grace Ineos craves, but there's this widespread perception that he lacks the elite tactical edge needed for the Premier League. And Oliver Glasner? Well, he comes with an unacceptable history of explosive boardroom warfare. You literally cannot replace Ruben Almiron with another livewire who might publicly attack the club's ownership.
Which brings us to the most fascinating development of this entire saga. Section 5. The Michael Carrick phenomenon, from stopgap to strategic frontrunner. Initially, the former decorated midfielder was installed strictly as a temporary caretaker, just to navigate some crazy fixture congestion and stabilize a deeply fractured dressing room.
But let the empirical data tell the story here because it is wild. Across his first 13 matches, Carrick hasn't just survived, he has completely thrived. We're looking at 9 victories, 2 draws, and just 2 defeats. He scooped up 26 points out of a possible 36, which is the absolute best points per game return in the league over this period. He literally took a confidence-depleted squad languishing in 7th place and rocketed them up to 3rd, putting them 11 points clear of Brighton. And this wasn't just an easy run of games either. He masterminded back-to-back tactical victories over perennial title contenders Manchester City and Arsenal, putting United right on the precipice of Champions League qualification.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how he's doing it. The tactical blueprint behind this success is incredibly precise. Carrick strictly prioritizes structure over chaos. He utilizes a sophisticated 3-5 offensive buildup. Step 1, he uses a double pivot for secure central progression. Step 2, he pushes 5 players high to stretch the opponent's block. And Step 3, he pins back fullbacks to create these isolated one-on-one scenarios for his wingers. Out of possession, he completely eschews the chaotic high press, favoring a highly disciplined mid-block that aggressively protects Zone 14. You know, that absolutely crucial space just outside the penalty area.
But beyond just the tactical blueprint, Carrick has demonstrated the exact intellectual flexibility that Almiron lacked. Jamie Carragher captured this perfectly with this quote. Carrick's ability to actually adapt mid-game is a massive differentiator. For example, during a pivotal 2-1 victory over Brentford, Carrick recognized the team was losing control of the midfield transitions. Instead of being stubborn, he implemented an unexpected mid-match tactical change that completely neutralized Brentford's momentum. That pragmatic adjustment actually drew explicit public praise from senior players like Harry Maguire.
Now, let's look back at those INOS non-negotiables. Carrick is literally hitting every single mark. He is universally trusted internally as a safe pair of hands. He protects and sets clear performance benchmarks for youth assets like Benjamin Sesko without ever publicly criticizing them. He operates seamlessly with the executive branch, actively consulting with Wilcox and Ashworth on transfers. He even had a highly positive private meeting with Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Carrington, which actually led Ratcliffe to publicly praise Carrick's excellent job while at the Chinese Grand Prix. It's just total institutional synergy.
Which brings us to our final point. Section 6, the final boardroom verdict, unlocking the summer rebuilt. This managerial appointment doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It directly dictates the club's paralyzed summer 2026 transfer window.
See, Manchester United's scouting department, led by Christopher Vivell, has identified some glaring squad deficiencies that require immediate, surgical intervention. They desperately need a robust, press-resistant number 6 to finally replace Casemiro. They need a dynamic, two-way left-back. And they require an experienced striker to supplement younger guys like Højlund and Sesko. But here is the critical blocker. The scouting department firmly refuses to formalize any of these major acquisitions until the permanent manager is 100% confirmed. They are terrified of repeating the expensive misalignment mistakes of the past. So this boardroom hesitation is literally paralyzing the rebuild. They demand an immediate resolution.
So what does this all mean? We arrive at the central tension of this entire explainer. Historically, Manchester United is wired to chase proven Champions League winners, but when your elite unicorn isn't available and every alternative carries unacceptable political or logistical risks, where do you turn? Will the INOS Executive Board succumb to the romantic pursuit of a global superstar, or will they trust the absolute wealth of empirical data right in front of them? The numbers clearly show Michael Carrick is the most logically defensible, highly adaptable, and culturally aligned solution for the new era. Retaining him might not just be a safe choice, it might be the only strategically sound decision left on the board. So, is sticking with Carrick a lack of ambition, or just the smartest move they could possibly make? Let me know what you think. Thanks for exploring this massive Old Trafford crossroads with me on today's Explainer, and keep learning.